The Arc Raiders Server Slam is live, and they actually completely and totally reworked the entire skill tree. They shifted skills all over the place, moved things up, took things and moved them into the other tree entirely. This thing got so reworked here that I can't even say for certain that this is going to be the actual skill tree that we're looking at when the full game launches. They may tweak it again based off of any sort of feedback that comes out of this testing. However, because so much has changed, I definitely think it's worth breaking down, which is exactly what we're going to do today. If this video helps you out at all, then help me out by hitting that like button. But let's go ahead, cut this plug, and jump right on into it here. For starters, let's go ahead and jump into the survival tree. And right off the bat, you see that the survival tree is no longer blue. In fact, it is red. But let me tell you, that is the least of the changes coming into this tree. First off, we have Agile Croucher. This makes it to where your movement speed while crouching is increased. After that, though, we have something called Revitalizing Squat. It's a perfect name for an ability. This makes it to where stamina regeneration while crouched is increased. And then above that, we have in-round crafting. This unlocks the ability to field craft items while topside. Yes, I don't think in either of the previous tests you had to unlock the ability to craft items topside. However, they have put this into the tree here, and it's definitely interesting to see it. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. But we also have Looter's Instinct, which makes it to where when you're searching a container, loot is revealed faster. And then we have Silent Scavenger. This makes it to where you make less noise when you are looting. Now, you might notice from the last survival skill tree, really what we had here was a couple of abilities that made it to where Arc had a harder time seeing you, as well as a harder time shooting you. However, those have seemingly been completely removed from the game, which is definitely interesting. When it comes to the first two mid-game abilities, we're going to call them, we have Good as New, which makes it to where while under a healing effect, stamina regeneration is increased, and Suffer in Silence, which makes it to where while critically hurt, your movement makes less noise. Above that, we have Stubborn Mule. This previously was on the conditioning tab. However, it's been moved all the way into the second half of the survival tab. This makes it to where your stamina regeneration is less affected by being over encumbered. Now, there's only been actually a few times so far where I've been over encumbered and stayed that way. So I'm not positive how good of an ability this is. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Above that, we have 3 Deep Breaths, which makes it to where after an ability drains your stamina, you recover more quickly. Then we have Traveling Tinkerer, which makes it to where you unlock additional items to field craft. I don't know what items necessarily you unlock. However, you unlock like very basic medical supplies to field craft with in-round crafting. So I'm assuming that Traveling Tinkerer perhaps gives you the ability to craft ammunition would be massive, but I'm not entirely sure. Above that, we have 1 Raider's Scraps, which makes it to where when looting Raider containers, you have a small chance to find an additional field crafted item. Then we have Broad Shoulders, which increases the maximum weight you can carry, and Looter's Luck, which makes it to where while looting, there's a chance to reveal twice as many items at once. Then finally, to round it off with the end game abilities here, we have Security Breach, which lets you breach security lockers. And then we have Minesweeper, which makes it to where mines and explosive deployables can be defused when you are in close proximity to them. Let's go ahead and move on over into the mobility tree, where we start off with Nimble Climber, which makes it to where you can climb and vault more quickly. Then we have Slip and Slide, which makes it to where you can slide further and faster. The sliding in this game, even at the base level, is pretty far and pretty quick, so it'll be interesting to see how much at a tier 5 slip and slide will actually do here. Then we have Sturdy Ankles, though, which makes it to where you take less fall damage when falling from a non-lethal height. Then we have Marathon Runner, which makes it to where moving around costs less stamina. And then finally, Youthful Lungs, which increases your max stamina. The 2 mid-game abilities are Carry the Momentum, which makes it to where after a sprint dodge roll, sprinting does not consume stamina for a short time. This does have a cooldown in between uses. And then we have Calming Stroll, which makes it to where while walking, your stamina regenerates as if you are standing still. Moving on up, we have Off the Wall, which makes it to where you can wall leap further. Crawl Before You Walk, which makes it to where when you're downed, you crawl faster. And then Effortless Roll, which makes it to where dodge rolls cost less stamina. Then we have Heroic Leap, which makes it to where you can sprint, dodge, roll further. We also have Vigorous Vaulter, which makes it to where vaulting is no longer slowed down while exhausted. And then we have Ready to Roll, which makes it to where when falling, your timing window to perform a recovery roll is increased. Moving up to the end game abilities though, we start off here with Vault Spring, which lets you jump at the end of a vault, and then we have Vaults on Vaults on Vaults, which makes it to where vaulting no longer costs stamina. Finally, we have the Conditioning Tree, where we start off with Used to the Weight, which makes it to where wearing a shield does not slow you down as much. Then Blastborn, which makes it to where your hearing is less affected by nearby explosions, and Fight or Flight, which makes it to where when you're hurt in combat, you regain a fixed amount of stamina, and this has a cooldown between uses. We then have Gentle Pressure, which makes it to where you make less noise when you're breaching, and then Proficient Prior, which makes it to where breaching doors and containers is going to take you less time. Moving up into the mid-game abilities here, we've got Unburdened Roll, which makes it to where if your shield breaks, your first dodge roll within a few seconds is not going to cost you stamina. And then Survivor's Stamina, which makes it to where when you're critically hurt, your stamina is going to regenerate faster. Moving on up, we have Downed but Determined, which makes it to where when you're downed, it takes longer before you collapse. And also Turtle Crawl, which makes it to where while downed, you take less damage. Above that is something called A Little Extra, which makes it to where breaching an object generates resources. And then we have Loaded Arms, which makes it to where your equipped weapon has less impact on your encumbrance. And then we move on into Effortless Swing, which makes it to where melee abilities cost less stamina. And also Sky Clearing Swing, which makes it to where you deal more melee damage to drones. Moving on into these end game passives, we have Fly Swatter, which makes it to where wasps and turrets can now be destroyed with a single melee attack. And then finally, we have Back on Your Feet, which makes it to where when you're critically hurt, your health is going to regenerate until a certain limit. Honestly, absolutely, I'm a bit mind blown that they did a complete and total overhaul here. They moved stuff all over the place, and now, in my opinion, just looking at this here knee-jerk reaction, it kind of feels like conditioning is the least valuable of the three trees, aside from something like Back on Your Feet, which might actually come in clutch. However, it was in need of a bit of a rebalancing because survival was definitely people's least favorite tree. But we've also seen people speculating that there's 4 colors to this Arc Raiders banner here, so there could potentially be a 4th skill tree eventually slotted to work its way into the game. Let me know what you think about that, and also let me know down in the comments if you guys are already inside of the playtest and diving into this new skill tree here. We should be running another live stream where we're jumping back into Arc Raiders. The schedule's a little bit all over the place right now, bear with me. But that's really all I wanted to break down today. Other than that, I hope you guys all have an amazing day. I'm out.